Welcome back to the Jack and Glenn channel. I'm Jackie.
I'm her husband, Glenn.
And if you like listening to audiobooks, please click the link in the description for a free 30-day Audible trial.
Also, hit that subscribe button and that bell notification so you don't miss any of our reviews.
That's right. And now to Decision Day.
Yay!
Yay. Okay, so for the first couple, I always take notes on the shows. I didn't take any notes for the first couple because it was a no-brainer.
Yeah, it was no-brainer.
A no-brainer. So first up we have Amelia and Bennett.
I like this couple. I mean, we see Amelia and Bennett. Dr. Pepper goes back to a review of what Bennett and Amelia did throughout the season of Married at First Sight. She reviewed their marriage, reviewed the time they did, whatever you want to call that, on the middle of the tree. They just had slacklining. That's what it was, slacklining. They reviewed that. Each couple was talking about. They're talking about. Bennett's talking about Amelia. Amelia's talking about Bennett, what she likes, what she loves about him, and then we get to see Bennett and Amelia. And when I noticed Bennett and Amelia, they march to their own beat. We already know that. They are one of the most underdressed couples at Decision Day ever. She got a short set on, a romper on, and Bennett has some gold pants on with rhinestones with some ruffles at the bottom.
And that hat he wanted to wear to the wedding.
And his hat turned backwards that he wanted to wear to the wedding. I just like Bennett and Amelia because they rock to their own beat, man. I really enjoyed them this season to see how they progressed, how they liked each other, and we know that the production had to make up some drama for Bennett and Amelia because they didn't have any. After he said he wanted to move and he was willing to move to Virginia with her, there was really no drama.
No, they were really smooth sailing, and of course, when it came time for they talked about how much they enjoyed each other, and even during the pandemic, and like you said, having to decide about her residency, and it was time for decisions, and
Bennett had a big surprise.
Yeah, he says, wait
a minute. He got a surprise. He got a big surprise. When he got to the decision for them, Bennett had a big surprise. And he goes into his pants. Now I'm thinking he maybe have a ring or something that's tied to the string of his pants.
Man, Pastor Cal was scared. He said, I thought he was taking his pants down.
And I'm like, Bennett's not going to take his pants down. I'm like, nah, this dude about to pull a ring off and maybe ask her to marry him.
We thought it was a
correctly.
Ring thing.
But what we find out was that Bennett got something more permanent than a ring. He got a tattoo on his buttocks, as Amelia said, his apex, on the side of him, of her initials.
Yeah, I said it was more like his hip. Like hip buttock area, but yeah, he said he's got a freshly done tattoo of her initials. And they were like, but what's your decision? Well, that goes without saying. I'm saying yes.
Boy, I'm so glad she said yes.
She was couldn't stop giggling, and that was one of the things he said he likes, that she's so that she likes to laugh, and she's so fun loving, and she just giggled and laughed, and of course it's yes for me too. And they literally, she said, we pretty much have to leave from here to go to Virginia, which wasn't exactly true. It was the next day.
Yeah.
But so they both said yes.
And I know most of you got that one right. That one was an easy one for most people, that Bennett and Amelia said yes. Now we saw something on the review later, that they may be having a little issues, but don't take what the review or the reunion say as being the preview of what the reunion says as a grain of salt. We know they always try to trick us and manipulate the previews in order for us to tune in.
Yeah.
So I think Bennett and Amelia are still together even till this day.
Yeah.
And so we moved on to the next obvious couple, because I was sitting there with the wife before the show. I'm like, okay, what order do we think they're gonna go in?
Yes.
I was like, well, they're either gonna do Olivia or Brett. The two obvious ones first. We knew Amelia and Bennett was gonna stay together. We already knew that Brett and Olivia wasn't together at all. So next up, we get Brett and Olivia.
Yes. And first we hear both of them talking about how they felt when they first got married. And Olivia said, at first I was really excited. She was like, he was a cat dad. He was a good brother, and just a good person. But she realized that he was sarcastic, which his family told her. He was sarcastic. He was strongly opinionated. He was a good money manager. That he was nice, but difficult to understand.
Yeah.
And she hoped between the two of them that there was enough that they would give it a good try. And she was obviously disappointed that it didn't turn out that way.
Yeah, she was disappointed. I mean, Brett liked her when she first came down the aisle, thought she looked good, and thought they could have conversation, thought even with their differences, they could still work it out and still be together. But again, he said the pandemic really took a toll on him. Mm-hmm. Him not getting the affection that he needs, the affection that he wanted, really took a toll on him. He felt like he wasn't wanted.
Yeah, because he said she became more withdrawn. At first, outside the cameras, there was, a little more, not intimacy, but
affection.
A little more affection. But he said she became more withdrawn during the pandemic, and he's still kind of overwhelmed with the emotions of how everything went. I
mean, I wanted to know, and Pastor Cal and the other experts get into this a little bit later. How much did they communicate over that? Because a lot of her being withdrawn during the pandemic might be the same reason Karen was withdrawn, or even Henry. They all worked in the medical field. Mm-hmm. During that time, during the pandemic, it was a lot of people that worked in the medical field worked a lot of hours. They were working overtime. They're always in and out of the hospital. I know she's a nurse practitioner, but they didn't know how to handle it. So she may have been working long days and just couldn't give that energy to him. Mm-hmm. Couldn't give that emotion to him at that time because of the job. And that was one of the first things he experienced that was that she's working long hours and she come home tired. She may not be able to expend that energy to him and spend time with him because she doesn't know how to do it. And she's not used to it because usually when they're freshly married during the pandemic, it's been about a month. And then so when she comes home and not being used to it, she just want to go to bed. She's tired. She doesn't know how to handle dealing with a husband in hours at the same time.
Yeah, he says going into it, he doesn't think anything that he says, there's nothing that he can say that will change anything. Yeah. And she says she wants to hear what he had to say. And
did she really?
I don't think she did.
She said she wanted to hear what he had to say, but when we get to the actual decision day, she didn't really want to hear anything he said. She came in with an attitude. Her mind was already made up. If Brett would have said, got on one knee, apologized profusely, she still would have been, had that doo-doo face.
Yeah. And when she comes in, he greets her with a big hug. Hey, hun, you look great. And she was like, oh, thanks. They asked who's been communicating. We'll come back to that. And who's been communicating. She was like, I get a few texts here and there. And so who sends the text messages? And Brett was like, me. I send the messages.
Yeah.
I just want to check on her and see how she's doing. And she basically was like, it doesn't make me feel special that he sends me text messages. It makes me feel indifferent. It is nice to see him, but she felt like the hey hun, the big hug, you're doing that for the camera. It's just for show. Yeah. And I mean, she just came in closed. She came in closed.
She came in closed-minded. And I'm not saying, and I am saying, I think Brett really did miss her. I think he really did want to have a relationship with her. He just knew, okay, I might have made a mistake by leaving. I want her to come back, but I don't know how to do it. So let me send a text message. Let me send a feeler out there, see how she's feeling. And once he left, or once he took everything out of the pantry, and once it was done, she was done with the relationship. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying she's wrong for that. I'm not saying he left her. So she felt like she was abandoned. She felt like I'm done and it's over with. But yet, she hasn't been able to articulate, what, I do have a role in this. I played a role in this. He may be a butt and he may be, sarcastic, and I don't like that. And she goes on to say that some of his sarcasm wasn't funny. Mm-hmm. But she never communicated that to him. Mm-hmm. She never told him, I don't like it when you do this. I don't like it when you do that. There's sometimes, Brett, 5 minutes we go by and everything seems cool, and then you'll say something. And that's what the experts were like, did you communicate that to him? Did y'all communicate to each other? Brett, did you communicate your feelings to Olivia? And Olivia, did you communicate your feelings to Brett? And they didn't do that. And that's why their relationship didn't work.
Yeah, and she basically was like, there was attraction at first. She did take the blame for the lack of intimacy. But she said she just got disinterested and she shut down because, again, his sarcasm and just trying to deal with him. And she said that turned her off. Him constantly looking at himself in the mirror, which I can't imagine. But she said that those were turn-offs. And they were like, well, did you say that to him? And he was like, no, it's the first time I'm ever hearing this. That she was turned off, you know. And the experts were like, you know what, if you had communicated, that probably would have helped.
And yeah, and Pastor Cal talks about her demeanor, and I think the way that he like, he's like, nothing he can say right now is gonna make you change your mind. And I'm not telling you that you need to change your mind, but at least hear him out.
Yeah.
And at least hear her out.
And she was like, yeah. He was like, no, you're not understanding. He was like, basically, he could have come in here begging and pleading.
Yeah.
And nothing he said would have satisfied you. Mm-hmm. Nothing.
She's hurt, as my teenager would say. She butt hurt, and she's in her feelings, and she realized it don't work. And it's okay to realize it didn't work, but can they both leave saying that we gave it 100% and try to make it work? They didn't. They can't. She didn't compromise. She wanted Brett to induct her life or take her life over her way, and she didn't want to compromise with anything that Brett had going on in his life. She wanted Brett to conform to the way that she did things.
Yeah, he said he still wanted to be friends. Yeah. He still wants to be friends after the fact. And she says, how can he say they want to be friends? He wants to still be friends when she didn't take the time to get to know, when he didn't take the time to get to know her. She said it was 4 months. She still, even to this point, doesn't feel like she was ever married. She doesn't feel like she knows him. But I'm like, I don't understand. How can you say you don't know him when you do? You know, he's sarcastic.
Yeah, you know nothing.
That's what I'm saying. What kind of know him? Because from the beginning, I mean, we saw that they had a lot more conversations than probably some of the other people.
Yeah.
They sat and talked about money and everything. So I'm like,
money, politics, and religion. They had all those conversations.
What other kind of know him? I guess she still felt like that was surface, but I mean, you know him. You know he's sarcastic. Mm-hmm. You know that what his family told him, like, don't take it too serious. Like, she took it too serious. She couldn't blow it off. Be like, you know, that's the way.
But he didn't know when to turn it off, and that's the problem. He didn't know when to turn it off. He didn't know when to be. He didn't know when to say, you know what, I'm not being sarcastic. I'm being real. This is how I budget my money. We would like to budget this way. This is how I interact with the games. I don't think this is trivia. This is what trivia is. With you and your friends doing things, you know what, I enjoy that. But you know what, I really enjoy spending time with you. Mm-hmm. I understand that you're tired. Because she even kind of downplayed the stuff that he did in the house.
Yeah, he was like, you know, what I did was I went to get the groceries and I fixed some food so that she didn't have to do that when she came home. And she was like,
Yeah, she downplayed it. You got to be able to meet him where he was at. And where he's at was, you know what, I'm going to go get food for you. I'm going to cook for you. I'm trying to make your transition home easy so we can have that affection and spend that time together. And it seemed like she didn't appreciate it. Maybe that was the time she had already checked out and where she didn't appreciate it. And I understand that. But if he's trying, at least acknowledge that he's trying. I think that's the problem. Sometimes men just want you to acknowledge that they're doing something different. Mm-hmm. Acknowledge that they're going the extra mile from what they used to do to what they're doing now. Mm-hmm. Appreciate the fact that, you know what, he didn't used to do this, but now he's doing this. Mm-hmm. You know what, honey, you know what, I appreciate you for taking out the trash and I didn't have to say anything, or picking up your clothes in the laundry room, or washing your clothes. We tell Amani and Woody with that earlier, with him having to separate his clothes. You know, just give him that type of affirmation or that affection he needs. That I do notice that you're changing, and that's all she had to do with Brett, and I think he'd have been okay. But needless to say, they decided to go their separate ways. Yeah, which is good for both of them, I think.
Yeah, obviously they had decided already.
Yeah, it was a done deal.
All right, and so we're going peaks and valleys. All right, so we're gonna go to another semi peak. We weren't too. Yeah, I think we were sure, but kind of iffy. You know what I mean? I think it made it more iffy than it probably was.
It could have went either way. I mean, we were sure on it. I was sure on this one. I thought they were gonna stay together, and you know.
I think that's what I said too. Yeah. But of course we knew they was gonna play it up. So they both say when they come in that, you know, it's been good.
Yeah, Miles and Karen.
Oh, I didn't say that.
No, you didn't say that.
Oh, I mean, it's Miles and Karen.
Oh, there you go. We're gonna lead us in. Yes.
They're the next one. So Karen says It's been good. Marriage has been good, being together. But it's been a lot. Going through the pandemic gave them more time together. Yeah. In some ways, it made it easier since Miles said some ways it made it easier because she had a problem with the cameras, which I think we said this last season. We're going to say it again. You knew what you signed up for. You knew the cameras were going to be there. The fact that people still say that is like unbelievable. AJ said it. Brandon said it. And now Karen, Olivia too, because she said Brett acted different with the cameras. Yeah. But for Karen for it to be an issue with them, like, you knew the camera was going to be there. Maybe they just didn't know to what extent.
To what extent? I mean, and they don't want to extend into the fact that they didn't want production to feed them questions. I think she wanted to have some intimacy and private time with Miles herself. And then she wanted to know, this is the issue that came up with her and Miles. She wanted to know, is Miles, again, she didn't say it like Olivia said it, is Miles this good guy all the time, or is Miles playing it up for the camera? Does Miles not want to look bad on TV? And yet, this is not all the way him. And that was her biggest, big issue.
And I'll say the same thing to Karen that I'm saying about Olivia. His family and friends told you up front. They said he's a nice person, he's kind, he's sweet, he's thoughtful. Anytime they would say, I wouldn't expect Woody to be the one getting married, I fully expected Miles to. If you're going to hurt my baby, send him back to me. They told her, and I know sometimes we feel like, oh, that's family, they're going to say that, but for what?
Yeah, for what? I mean, that was one of the issues that I had with her, that was she never really fully kind of embraced Miles. She did embrace him, but I think she did get some bad edits. I'm not going to say everything she did was true to true form that we saw it. I think she did show emotion to Miles. I think she did show some compassion to Miles. She didn't move at the pace that Miles wanted her to move at. Even watching a little bit of Unfiltered prior to the show, she talked about, her and Miles had some good times when the pandemic was over, or during the time of the pandemic, and there was some rough times. But she really, I think, was trying, and she just didn't want it to come off. She didn't want to come off a certain way on camera. But she did come off a certain way on camera, a way that people looked at her like, what's wrong with her? People are lining up right now to try to go on Miles' DM, and I'm sure people probably lined up for hers too. But she put a persona on there as if she wasn't down to earth.
Right.
That she wasn't down to earth, and she didn't really feel what Miles was saying. And I think a lot of people really got turned off with her with the masculinity that she kept saying. I wanted to see your masculinity, or I want you to be more masculine. Him having emotions doesn't make him non-masculine. Right. There's a lot of people out there who wish their husband or their mate or whoever had more of that compassionate side, or that side to let her know what's going on with him, instead of holding on the inside, and now something small turns into a explosion. And I think that's what she didn't understand. Miles had to verbalize his feelings and emotions because he didn't want to destroy him on the inside. He told her he had been clinically depressed before, so she already should have gone into it after the honeymoon knowing that he's going to share his feelings, he's going to share his emotions, because him holding it in is not good for his mental being and for our men to be as husband and wife.
Yeah. And she said the one thing that they had on their side, and what she believes when it comes to relationships, is she believes in time. Yeah. So they had time. But Pastor Cal was like, how was your intimacy, physically and emotionally? And Miles basically was like, nobody could have told me that by the end of these 6 weeks, let alone 4 months, that me and my wife wouldn't have had sex. Right. That, he said, he didn't feel like they had emotional or physical intimacy, and wasn't sure that, like we heard before, he wasn't sure that she could meet his needs, and if they could even get to that place. But he said over the last few weeks, and Karen said the same thing, over the last few weeks, he had seen a change, he's seen some improvement, and he felt like, it was worth trying.
But there's some women we saw, and we laughed at Will, who said this. There are people who intellectually you have to, I want to say, make love to them in their mind before you can do it physically, or have intimacy in their mind. They gotta feel comfortable. They gotta feel like everything is taken care of. They gotta feel relaxed. They gotta feel. Remember, these are strangers. So even though that you have that married tag onto you, they're still strangers, and so we don't know how she moved in her regular relationships. Whether she gave it up within the first 6 weeks or whatever in a relationship. So you got to look at it. Oh yeah, this is your husband per se, but in a regular relationship, she might have took 6 months before she had sex with a person. You know, so so she's moving at the pace as if it's a dating relationship. Miles has a mindset, this is my wife and we're married, and so we should be doing married people things. And she's like, yeah, we're married, but again, we're strangers, as she used to say a lot. And strangers who are dating that just happen to be married. And I think that's where her mind was at. We're still dating, getting to know each other, and I don't want to give myself to you even though we're married.
Well, and then she asked, could she be frank? And she said for her, physical intimacy is led by emotional intimacy.
Again,
which
you got to make love to her mind. He needed to make, and I don't know what else he needed to do.
That's what I'm trying to say. I understand that, but like, what else could he have done?
I don't know what else he could have done. I don't know what else he could have done.
She never really said either.
From what we saw, he seemed like he was giving her the emotional that she needed. Maybe it was something else that she needed. Again, she may not have communicated to him what else that she wanted from him. Maybe she just wanted him being, in her mind, the masculinity that she wanted to see might have gave her the emotional stimulation that she needed. Or when he stood up to her and what he said to her, and so how he came back. Again, what he said at the dinner table, their last dinner. Him being that vulnerable, and as she felt as if his walls came tumbling down. Maybe she wanted to see him cry. Maybe she wanted to see him get emotional. Because we saw the Miles that was still even killed, trying to please. Remember, his parents said he's the one that's always trying to please. She wanted to see Miles not trying to please her, but trying to take care of himself and telling her his emotional needs. And that's what I think that's what helped her tear the walls down. When he talked to her like that and told her, and he was in tears, in other words, again, as I said weeks ago, manipulation. She wanted to manipulate him and play him to her tune instead of him trying to control. So which goes back to the question, do she really want a man who can control the situation, be masculine, or do she want a man only can masculine when she wanted to be masculine and only can control the situation when the way that she wanted to be controlled?
Right, I don't know, but in the end, Miles said yes, and Dr. Pepper is like super happy.
Yes. And
then Karen says, she loves and respects Miles' heart and his generosity, and she said yes. And I told my husband anyway, if Miles says yes, that means Karen's going to say yes. Because they said they didn't want no surprises coming into it. They want to be on the same page and be consistent. So
there's some times when I watch this show, let the person who's not as obvious go first. I wish Karen had went first.
Yeah.
I wish Karen had went first. I wanted to see what she would say. And then Miles go second. Mm-hmm. Just even when we got to Christina, and when we get to Christina and Henry, I wanted to see Christina go first and not Henry.
Right.
Just to see what was she going to say or do. Because I'm feeling, okay, if you say no, this is just my opinion. If I know you're a little shaky and you tell me no, guess what I'm probably saying?
No.
I'll probably say no.
Yeah. Yeah, so we can scoot over to Christina and Henry, but I just want to add that after Miles and Karen said yes to each other, like I said, Dr. Pepper was happy when Miles said yes, but Pastor Kyle was super happy at the end that both, because he was like, and I think Dr. Viviana they all felt the same way, like they could really work if they got to the point where they could really be intimate.
He called them a power couple.
Yes, he did.
And he said they could be a power couple if they got to the point where they can let their walls down and be intimate and be vulnerable with one another and do the things that he knows they can do to be comfortable. But I had to go back and realize that in the first episode, when we were getting to know these characters, and when the introduction, when Dr. Pepper came to the house, these people, they're on a TV show, but these people, they did say this is something that Karen would not have done. Mm-hmm. She's like Henry, this is not in her comfort zone. So when you took somebody like that and put them in this experiment, which is not their comfort zone, is what we got. Mm-hmm. And I had to go back and realize and watch that and realize this is why Karen is the way she was throughout this process, because she wouldn't have done this neither.
Right. Right.
You know, and that's why her and Henry worked in the same department.
Yeah, at one point. So next, like we said, we have Christina and Henry.
Yeah.
And so you know, coming into it, we hear Christina talking about how much she likes Henry, what she likes about Henry. There's so much she likes about Henry, that he's very, very different from any other guy that she's ever dealt with. That he's awkward and shy, he has a dry sense of humor, but she liked it. That he was sweet, and that when he got out of his comfort zone, and he was impossibly slow to make a move, but also, you know, that reflected like a gentleman to her. All in all, you know, she just, what she said was like kind of optimistic. She, you know, she did acknowledge they had their differences, but for him, I think this was the nicest I ever heard him talk about Christina, and I think he was really genuine. But he said she had a vibrant personality and style, that she was funny, she was free-spirited, adventurous, and well-traveled. You have to be well-traveled if you're a daggone flight attendant. I don't know how you can't be.
Again, it goes back to what Henry's friend said. Kirsten said. Or Kirsten, whatever.
I think it was Kristen.
Kristen said that Henry is nice. He doesn't like to say anything bad about anybody. He wants to make sure everybody likes him and he's happy. Even when we saw them get in their discussion, he spilled the tea and told, but he really didn't go off like he could have went off.
But he said that beforehand, even though he said those good things about her. He said, but her other side is she's blunt.
Yeah. She's
impatient. She has a confrontational nature, you know. And he said what he wanted going into this was a kind and gentle partner that trusts him to be honest. And he didn't say it, but that's not what he got.
Not what he got. I mean, if he slides over to Olivia's DM, he might get that. I just wanted to see. I know a lot of people out there thought that. I want to see if Olivia and Henry could work. I'm curious, but let's get back to
it. So he comes in first, and then she comes in, and he greets her and says, "You look nice," and she was like, "Thank you." You know, It took her a minute, but she was like, "You do too."
She couldn't say it. I just believe she just couldn't say it. To me, we get a character like this on almost every episode of Married at First Sight. We had Matt, but at least Matt was honest with his. Matt was like, "Look, I live on my friend's couch. I ain't got a place. This is what we do." All right. Then you get a guy like Michael, right, who every week is a different lie. And you know, it is what it is. Michael lied about being a principal, got a job while he's on vacation. Then he gets back. He lied about his paycheck, what he was getting paid. He lied about just anything. He lied about going to Jamaica and letting old girl Mika swim with the dolphins. So I mean, you get a Christina, who's a mixture between both. She has nowhere to lay her head, and she a liar. And you don't think she's lying. This dude he's not going to make up anything about a text. Why would he go to the elaborate story of, she showed me a text where, a guy said I was sleeping with her. She told me about this text she received that I allegedly slept with a guy. And they were like, a same-sex affair? That's what a guy means. But, she could never, she's like, oh my God. She was like shocked and surprised that he even brought it up. Like, yeah. Did you or did you not say it?
Yeah, but he said before that, she's basically wanting me to cover for her and make her look good. And I don't think he did it maliciously, but he was like, she told me she got a text. I asked to see the text. I never saw it. Like, she threatened to hold over my head. I didn't say that. Mm-hmm. I did not say. He was like, come on, stop playing.
Stop playing, dog.
Stop playing. You did. You threatened to hold it over my head, which they were like, it's kind of confusing. Hold it over your head. Like, what if it's not true? How can I hold it over your head? But she was adamant, I guess because she was adamant that it was true. Yeah, go ahead.
Then she says on her phone that all her text messages disappear every 30 days. I don't know what she might have a setting on there. I got text messages like 2 years ago.
Bruh.
I'm sorry.
Right.
I don't know. I have not met anybody who goes in there and just delete their text messages automatically deletes after 30 days. That means it deletes the conversation. Mm-hmm. So dog. No.
But then she also went on to say that the text that she got, it came from one of those free text numbers. She wasn't sure who it was. Maybe it's one of my friends trying to play a prank. And then I thought maybe it was one of Henry's friends trying to play a prank. And
it may be a politician getting you to try to vote. It may be the police officers trying to get you to support the campaign this year. It could be in the school. Come on.
But she said, I never thought you were gay. She says 1 minute, I never thought you were gay, but then she says at the same time,
but if you are,
I thought, yeah, but if you are, and then I figured, well, maybe that's why, he doesn't approach me like that. Maybe he's gay. I did think that before, but I don't think you're gay. Even though I thought that before, but I don't think you're gay.
But it had nothing to do with her attitude. Nothing had to do with the fact that she has a mental illness that sometimes she didn't take medication for. Which, if we be honest, that hurt her relationship at the beginning because she wasn't on her medication, mm-hmm. and we saw, and when you watch the season, you can see when she was on her medication. You saw a different Christina. So now she didn't go on her medication, thought she didn't need it. It hurt the relationship at the beginning, mm-hmm. and Henry couldn't get past that. She was dishonest from the beginning. Well, I live somewhere downtown, or I live somewhere here. Dog, where you live at? Mm-hmm. All she had to say, you know what? Like Matt said. I'm a flight attendant. I don't live here. I travel back and forth. My mom stay here, and this is what I consider my home base. Mm-hmm. But I don't have a place of my own.
Or something. But he was like, too many excuses from her during the whole process. This text message thing, that just was like the last straw for me. He was like, it was too many things he couldn't look past.
Yeah, I mean, you calling your husband gay. And you accuse him of cheating while y'all married. I mean.
So Henry says no.
And Christina says no. Again, wish Christina would have said, wish they would have asked Christina first instead of Henry. I'd be interested to see her explanation.
Yeah, because she said, things didn't go as they expected, but she thinks he's a cool person. And she wants to be friends. And she said she felt blindsided by the whole conversation about the text message, which I can understand because and this is why I say I can understand her feeling like she got blindsided because they talked about it, but like Henry kind of unleashed the beast in this setting, and so I feel her on the blind side, like, bro, we talked about it, but you ain't go in like that.
I don't agree with it because first of all, you got to know it's a reality show. By the time that you get to decision day, they probably watched every inch of your film. There is going to be a question about this text message that's coming up. So guess what? Just go ahead and deal with it. Let's handle it. And if it doesn't come up on decision day, by God, it's coming up on reunion episode. So you're not done with this text message question. So go ahead and get your ducks in a row. Mm-hmm. Get your stuff ordered. You on a reality TV show. This ain't your first rodeo. You didn't watch it. She knew it. Look, I'm not mad at Henry for bringing it up because it was a deal breaker for him.
I'm absolutely not mad at him for bringing it up. Yeah. But I do think he's probably more aggressive about it than he had been.
Wouldn't you be aggressive about it if you wasn't something that...
I would have been aggressive about it in the first place. I mean, when I tell you, when she came to me and I would let her have it from off the rip. But when she first came, like, nah, good goddamn well, I'd have dragged her right then and there. You know what I'm saying?
I'd have been like, what's the number? Let's call it.
He said he asked to see the text message.
I don't need to see the text. What's the number? Let's call it. I don't even need to see the text. Let's call it and find out who's on the other end. And let's ask the question. Mm-hmm. And if they didn't answer today, let's go call it tomorrow. And the next day, let's go to White Pages and see where the number comes up at. I mean, whatever.
You gotta have some of that phone search number like they do a catfish. They be finding everybody.
Right, you gotta have some kind of investigation. If it's not true and you don't believe it, I'm telling you, by me telling you, let's go call the number, let's go find out who this is, lets me know. Because I'm thinking she was like a friend of hers. I really recall Henry saying that she said a friend of hers sent her the message. She did. So it went from a friend of yours sending you this text message to you being some kind of free cell phone number liar.
Well, and in the end, the experts were like, have either one of y'all apologized to each other for this? And of course, we're like, what is Henry apologizing for? But they said they didn't apologize. She was like, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said it, and he I think he was like, I shouldn't have acted like that either. But yeah, it was a mess.
Yeah, it was a mess. So needless to say,
but we knew they were gonna say no.
Yeah, we knew they were gonna say no.
And so, last but not least, we go from the crappy couple to the bestest couple. Yes.
Oh, this has been their relationship has been one of the better couples that I've seen on Married at First Sight in a long time.
Reminds me of Greg and Deanna. But they had two of these couples. Like, I've never had a season where it was two couples where it was like you knew that they were gonna be good and they got together.
Think about it. Out of here, this showing Woody and Amani stayed together. But out of this show, you had
why you just do that?
I just look. You had 3 out of the 5 couples.
Mm-hmm.
Now we can go into why it's together.
No, you didn't. I mean, they stayed together. He comes in and she's already there. Beforehand they're talking about what they like about each other. Just their style and their personalities and how they matched and everything. And so, like I said, he comes in and she's already there. And she's like, "Oh, look at you! I see you in tennis shoes." And he was like, "You look nice, sweets. You look nice, sweets." And she was like, "Ooh, and you smell good too." And the experts are like,
she hadn't seen him, so she was happy to see him. It was their first night in 4 months not spending the night with each other.
Yeah, but
it's like she was like, "Man, I miss my boo, and he misses sweets."
He missed sweets. He loved that name.
He missed sweets. Oh my
gosh.
Yeah.
And so they were like, how was it? Or, how's it been? And Woody was like, when I thought about love, I thought about a person. But now I see that love is not a person. It's a concept. It's a thing. It's consistency. It's being there. It's really feeling each other, and it's basically just being consumed with one another. Kind of like he said. He got choked up. Talking about it,
And he got emotional talking about it, but before he even got emotional talking about it, just the way they interacted with each other.
Oh my God.
Dr. V was like over there crying because this is what it's like when you create something. They put this experiment together, and these two really get what this experiment is all about.
Pastor Cal said it.
And so she was, emotional about it, and when Woody started talking about his love for Amani, and this is not the first time we saw, when he expressed his love for Amani, he get choked up. Because he didn't imagine it would be like this. He didn't imagine that it would be this peaceful, this kind, and that we'll get on, and she'll check me and bring me back in, and I'll help her out. And so he's doing and saying all the right things, and it is like what you imagine the love to be after, I guess in this case, 4 months.
Yeah.
And that's where he got caught up. He's like, I can't believe she really loved me for me.
And I mean, and she expressed the same thing, I just love has changed both of us for the better. Pastor Cal got wrapped up. He's getting teary. He said, "Man, it's dust in this room. It's getting to everybody." And of course, Woody was like,
"Black love."
Black love. He's like, "Yes, it's absolutely yes for me." And it's Amani's turn. And he said he's gonna flash out. I'll probably get up and run off. Yeah. And she says, "You know what? I want to get a divorce." Pastor Cal mouth open. I was like, "Come on, bruh. Don't fall for it."
Woody was like, "Huh?"
Don't fall for it.
Dr. V was like.
But Woody was like, "Oh, she trying to test me. She playing with me. She playing with me." He was she was like, "Nah, I'm just playing." Of course it's yes.
Of course it's yes. And everybody inside it, you happy because that's what you imagine. That's what you knew. You knew that these two guys, this woman and this girl, this lady, this man and this lady was connected together, and you knew they had good chemistry from day one. From the wedding to the honeymoon to when they got back to New Orleans to all that, you knew that they had connection, and they was willing to help other people. They was willing to help themselves. They had communication. They was willing to invest in the experiments. They was willing to do everything, and that's why they were successful, because they were able to have conversation and talk about everything.
Yeah, and just and let each other in.
Let them in.
That's the one thing. Amelia and Bennett, Amani and Woody, they let each other in to their lives, into their space, into their emotional realm, and I can say between both of those two couples, Amelia and Bennett and Amani and Woody, they let each other be themselves, and they were very accepting of each other.
And that's what you, when you're in a relationship and when you're in a marriage, let the other couple let the person in that relationship be themselves. Not try to conform them to what you want them to be or to mold them to what you think they should be. Allow them to be themselves, and you guys discuss and have conversation about what we're going to be, what we're going to do together, what we would do, and what we could do, and what we can do as husband and wife. It's just one of those things you got to realize when you marry, the two are one. And so therefore you are individuals, but still let me have some of me. Let me still have some of me.
Yeah, so obviously everybody's all pumped about Amani and Woody, you know, but they expected that. So then we see the next day, Karen says it's the next day, you know, all the couples get together, they meet like on a patio or whatever, and they share their decisions and say, you know, Amani and Woody like, you know, we stayed married, of course we did, you know, married. Amani said that, and what's the next steps? Woody says it's a house. You know, we already been looking at some things, but we figure, you know, in a couple years, and then next come, you know, we got to get the puppy with the kid. And they were like, but when? And Amani's like, a year and a half, maybe 2 years. They sound like Deanna and Greg again, but they said they're gonna get there. No
slip ups.
Yeah, Miles and Karen, they say, you know, they decided to stay together, and they haven't figured out what happens next. They're just going with the flow. You know, just trying to stick in there and continue to grow and get to know each other. And then Amelia and Bennett. Amelia says, you know, our decision day was full of surprises.
What do you like? What kind of surprise?
And they kind of pause, like, what surprise? Oh my gosh! And she says, well, you know, Benny got a tattoo of my initials on his bum.
On his bum.
Well, more like his hip area, but at the apex. And I always heard that, you know, somebody the closer to a body hole, you get a tattoo, the crazier the person is. They were like, oh. Well, yeah, okay. How crazy is he? She was like, nah, you know, it's a good kind of. Yeah, it's not that close. He was like, I don't think it's that close to my body hole. But anyway,
you doctor you. And then it gets to the couples that didn't, you know, get to Henry and Christina. And they were like, oh, Henry, like, well, we just decided not stay together and not to be together. And, you know, he explained the reason why. But then when it gets to Brett and Olivia, you know, Brett shows some emotion. He said that, and Olivia makes a smart comment. Where was this at when we was married? Or where was this at? And it just, she always has something negative to say.
Cause they say, okay, so
she a negative Nancy.
You know, they say obviously we decided not to stay. We decided not to stay married. We decided to get a divorce, but y'all knew that already. But Amani was like, well, what was your favorite part? Well, I think Amelia asked it, what's your favorite part about it? And I thought I was so shady. Olivia's like, you know, getting to meet everybody, and I have new friends, and, you know, this circle, this group that I'm in, you know, and so Brett's like, you know, to me, my favorite part was getting out of my routine, getting out of my comfort zone, you know, doing something different. And that's when she says, well, this is the most I ever heard you express yourself. And he was like, well, because they asked questions. But she said, I asked questions. I asked a lot of questions.
But you don't ask the right ones.
And so Amani's like, well, what questions do she need to ask? And he said the good ones. The good ones. And they were like, oh my gosh.
And she didn't ask the good question. But again, this is from a couple who had good conversation at the beginning.
Yeah.
Who, on the honeymoon, they were doing everything the right way. It went south quickly.
Bad.
You know?
Bad.
You know, and so even with them, they didn't bring the mood down. They didn't bring the mood down, and so
not completely.
Not completely, but the couples then went and decorated Bennett and Amelia's car.
Yeah.
Their Honda Accord, because you know Honda Civic, I believe, to let them know that, you know, we want you to celebrate. So we're happy for you. They wrote on the windows. They wrote, you know, put the streamers on the cars, which we know was staged.
They want to give them a good send off.
Good send off with some cans on the back of the car. a good send off. Then again, Christina being the nice person that she is, she go gets Ben and Amelia, brings them out, and then everyone's having fun.
Yeah, and it was really cute because they all signed the car. They put their own little thing on it. Amani wrote on the back windshield, really nice handwriting. I know it was like, but I noticed that it was really nice handwriting. And Karen wrote on there, and she had nice handwriting too. But you know, you did it, way to go. Bling bling, sting sting.
Yeah.
BLM on the side. You know,
it was good to see them connect and send them off in a good way on to their way to Virginia. So I mean, I don't know about anybody else. I really enjoyed this season of Married at First Sight.
Well, yeah, me too. And I wanted to say that Amelia thought it was really sweet what they wrote in the car. She was like, I don't think we'll wash the car. And I was thinking, well, honey, you know, you just take some pictures of it. You're going to have to watch. But knowing them, they probably won't wash the car.
Rain with it.
But yeah, they probably won't wash the car still. But, you know, they were like, everybody keep in touch.
Yeah.
And, you know, Bennett, make sure did you get another phone so you can keep in touch? He was like, as a matter of fact, I did. Bam.
No, Miles said he will buy and send him an iPhone. Miles said, I will send and buy you an iPhone.
And he said, no, I got one.
I upgraded.
To another flip
phone. He said, I get text message and group text. I do group text and some special emojis.
But very basic.
Basic emojis.
It's a basic emoji.
Hey, I'm not even mad. Bennett likes to, he a minimalist. He wants to stay off the grid. And you can't track a flip phone. Hey, Bennett has his flip phone. I'm not even mad.
Man, that was funny, but yeah, it was good to see them all together and sharing that moment, and it was friendly. It was friendly. Brett and Amelia was on other sides. Christina and Henry were on other side, but
it was friendly. But like I said, season 11 was really interesting. Didn't have that much drama. It wasn't that type of drama that you would see in previous seasons.
Well,
it wasn't no Matt and Amber
from before.
It wasn't no Matt and Amber drama. It wasn't no Michael and Mika drama. It wasn't no Brandon and Taylor drama. It was kind of smooth sailing. They seemed like they understood their roles. With not anybody got out of the gate. So I thought the season was good. I thought the season there was a lot of things we saw in this season. The pandemic, there was a lot of things we saw with the non-communication with husband and wives that they could have averted a lot of issues in their relationship. I really still believe if Brett and Olivia was able to have a conversation, it would have worked out. If Henry and Christina would have had a very good conversation and she was honest up front, it could have worked out. Miles and Karen had conversations, so they decided to move at their pace, which is okay for them. It's okay for their pace. This is where she wanted to go. He agreed to it, and they rolled it out. So this season 11 was good. I still think the experts need to be involved more. I know their excuse this year is the pandemic, but if we go back to previous episodes, they wasn't involved as much as they should. We don't see as many house visits as we should see from the experts. Even though the pandemic should have been easier for them to Zoom in or whatever case, Google Meet, whatever, to meet with some of these couples.
Yeah.
If they would have met with Brett and Olivia more often, they may not be divorced now.
Yeah, that's the one thing that I didn't really understand about when they went through the pandemic. I felt like they could have had more dealings with them.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we enjoyed this season, and we get a nice little treat. Yes. Tomorrow is the reunion.
So if you're watching this reunion, will be on Thursday. Which we don't have to wait a full week for the reunion. Usually you have to wait a full week, digest it, settle up, talk about it. But not this season. We'll go right into the reunion, and the reunion looks juicy.
Yeah, it does.
We know that Brett looked like he's not there, but he's on camera. It looked like Bennett and Amelia are not there as well. So we get some interaction with them, and so it's interesting. There's a lot of things that the way that it was cut or edited, and it looks like it's gonna be some blow up.
Yeah, it looks like it's gonna be a trip. So.
And especially with Amani, like Woody, did you share everything with Amani?
Oh, I can't wait to see what we're trying to get at.
I want to see what we got to get at. What kind of answer they try to get at with that. So hey, it's gonna be interesting. Thank you for watching us. Make sure you check out our Ready to Love review starting this Friday. Ready to Love review starting this Friday. Make sure you check that out. Also, make sure you check out any of the past episodes of Married at First Sight Couples Cam that we have reviewed. Make sure you check that as well. Also, make sure you check out the audio description audio link in the description. Audio link in the description for Audible.
It's
Man,
late, y'all.
make sure you hit the subscribe button and the bell notification. We thank you for joining us, and we appreciate you. And make sure you check out our reunion video. Follow the reunion.
Thanks, y'all. Bye.